Squiggly the Squirrel Down at the Dump. Chapter 1. It was a wonderful life. Squiggly was an urban squirrel. He lived in a small house at a fork in the branches of a huge oak tree on St. Dunstan in Winter Park, Florida, with his mother and father. His dad worked out of town and his mother was a stay-at-home squirrel. Squiggly had never been more than just a few blocks from home. This year his dad had been in Georgia working on the pecan harvest for most of the summer, and now it was fall. Days were beginning to get a little cooler, and soon his dad would be coming home. This was Squiggly's favorite time of the year. Squiggly's best friend was Lenny. Oh, not the kind of friend who slept over. After all, Lenny was a dog. He lived in the house on the corner under the oak tree. Sometimes they played tag. Squiggly would leap from limb to limb until he could climb the crepe myrtle down into Lenny's backyard. He'd dance and prance around until the little white dog would leave the shade of his porch and run into the yard, barking loudly, chasing Squiggly from tree to tree until they would both be exhausted. Other times, when Lenny was in his house, Squiggly would creep quietly onto Lenny's porch, and standing on tiptoe look through the glass door. If Lenny was asleep on the brick floor, he would tap lightly on the glass and wake Lenny up. Lenny would bark and throw himself against the door. Squiggly would laugh and laugh. Then he'd run up to the door and then back a bit, then run up to the door and throw himself against the glass, driving Lenny completely crazy. The little dog would bark and howl until all the neighbors up and down the street could hear him. When this happened, the person who lived with Lenny would come to the door and say, "Hush, Len. Now you go on home, you silly little squirrel. It was a wonderful life." "Squiggly, wake up," his mother called. "It's time to go to school." "Oh, Mom, just a few more minutes," he pleaded, pulling the covers over his head. "You're almost late, and if you don't get up now, there won't be time for breakfast. We're having acorn pancakes." Squiggly loved acorn pancakes. Brushing his gray fur, he could smell the pancakes and his mouth started watering. Pulling on his shirt, he flew down the stairs and rushed into the small kitchen. He gobbled down the pancakes and huckleberry syrup, threw on his backpack, and ran out the door, barely feeling the kiss his mother planted on his forehead as she put his peanut butter sandwich in his backpack. She stood there in her oak leaf print apron and watched as he leapt from limb to limb on his way to school. "That boy," she said to herself, walking back into the kitchen.